Today I'm going to be giving you guys a masterclass on how to use the JVC 4K cameras. Now the thing is, with these cameras, everything that I talk about today will apply to other JVC cameras inside the space. So, without further ado, let's get started. First thing that I want to talk about is on what the different terms and what all that stuff actually is. So the first term that I want to talk about is resolution. Resolution is your width and your height of your camera. Usually we measure resolution in pixels, so that would be 1920 by 1080. Next thing I'm talk about is your shutter speed. Shutter speed is the amount of light that gets taken into the camera. Usually you want to make sure that that is double your frame rate. On this camera, we have it set to 1 out of 60. If you're wondering what the 60 means, 60 is your FPS. That's basically the amount of footage that gets taken in, and is on how smooth or on how choppy your camera is. In film, they usually use 24. However, if you're filming something for YouTube or a commercial or something like that, you would usually use 30 and then you would use 60 for B-roll. The difference here is that you can take your 60 FPS footage and slow it down, and you get a really good B-roll footage out of it. Now, next thing I want to talk about is the ISO. The ISO is your gain, and that is another thing for exposure. Basically, it's just how bright or how dim your image is. Then we have our f-aperture. Your f-aperture is how much light the camera is taking in at once. Now let's go through and talk about the camera itself, how to put it together, how to use it, and how to get the best out of your footage. First thing that comes with putting the camera together is to take your lens, throw it on the camera. To do that, we go through, open this bag up, and we go through and take our lens here. Which for us, we use Recon cinema lenses, and it seems like that whoever uses lens got to put the lens cap back on it. Interesting. Then we go through and we go ahead and spin the camera on. Go through and take this little dial off right here. Then we go through and we take off this back plate right here. Go through and we can put the lens on. One key thing to note is when you're putting the lenses, there is 2 red dots. One of the red dots is right here with the other one being right there. I want to make sure that both of those match, because if they don't, then you're not going to be able to get it to go in. Now when you are actually getting the lens on, you want to make sure that you hear a click with it. There we go. Once you hear that click, that is on how you know that you did everything correctly. Then you want to go through and throw your battery. Throwing a battery in is pretty simple. All you do is you take your battery, like this one right here, then you can go through and to just simply take it inside like that. If you don't hear a click, that means it's not in. Now we can go through and to show you guys on how to change the settings of this camera, and in order to do that, I'm going to have to move everything a little bit. One moment. Alright, so in order to go through and to set up the rest of this camera, I'm going to have to go through and speed run this, just because I've only got like 10 minutes. In order to go through and to use this camera, we first have to go through and to power it on. In order to power the camera on, we have to go through and to go over to this side right here, then we have to go through and to hit this power switch. Now the key thing here to note is that you do actually have to also press and hold a blue button. That's on how that is basically a safety, so don't accidentally power the camera. Then we can go through and to flip open the screen right here. Now that I've done that, we can go through into our settings here. We can go through and change resolution. In order to go through and change resolution, we go into our menu, go into our system, go into record format, and here we can see our system is set to HD and our format is AVC HD. We set to AVC because we actually have issues with MLB files and Premiere crashing our projects. That is something that I'm going to assume that Premiere is going to fix in the future, but at the moment it is a bug and it is annoying. Now what we can do is we can go through and we can go ahead and change our frame rate. So on this camera we can go up to 120 if we actually go through and to set our system over to high speed. That is in case if you want to do time lapses or anything like that. We don't usually do any of that stuff here, we usually just use it for the main system itself. Next up, in order to change the white balance, we go into camera process, then we go into our white balance. Now we can go through and change our preset temp and our alternative temp. I usually keep my white balance at 3200 just because it allows me to get a nice clean image out of the camera. Then we can go through into our audio video set up our video so that then it is on SDI. because that allows us to hook this into the TrackCaster if we ever need to. Now that you know all that, let's go ahead into the settings on the camera itself, just because this camera does have some settings that you should probably know about. Alright, so on the camera you can see that we have marker, A level, and shutter. So marker is actually a center marker. It looks a little bit like this, and so then we can make sure that we are always in center on the camera. A level locks the auto exposure so then it doesn't go too high. Shutter is your shutter speed. That allows you to change it from 1 out of 60 to 1 out of 120 if you ever need to. Which, to do that, go ahead and pick our camera here. Then we can go through and use these two knobs right here. These two buttons right here to go through and to turn that up and turn it down. Then on the left of that, we actually have more. We have gain options and white balance options. In order to see this properly, I will go through and close up the monitor. We have the gain adjustment and we have a white balance. You can actually change all these inside the settings, and to do that, we go through, open it up again. Go ahead into menu/thumb, go ahead into camera function. Here you can see our gain presets. We have low set to 0, we have medium set to 6, and we have high set to 12. Now gain here is actually measured in decibels for lighting, even though usually that's what's measured in audio. Speaking of audio, we're going through and to see that is all right here. Everything right now is being powered off of the shotgun microphone that is on top of the camera and looks like this. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now behind the monitor, you'll be able to see that we have more options right here. Here we have our focus assist, TC2, which is basically another hotkey, auto mode, autofocus/manual focus, and a lock. That is so then you can lock auto control, so you will never be able to change it again, unless if you hit the button. And actually, underneath all that, we do also have an auto white balance button. It is pretty hard to actually see this just due to the way now the camera is built, but if you go through and hit that, that will go through and to set up our white balance automatically. If we go through and press focus assist, you'll notice that the whole entire screen will pop up gray. That's so then it can tell you what is in focus and what is not. And adjust the focus by using this dial right here on the camera, and then this one is for the ISO. As we adjust the focus, you'll notice that it will pop up some blue lines. It'll also pop up with blue lines, showcase what is in focus and what is not. And as I go through and throw something in front of the camera so you can kind of see it, you'll notice that as I go through and to dial it up, it becomes more and more focus. Then we can go through and turn it off, and voila. The screwdriver is fully in focus. Then another thing that you should know about is the ND filters. These are basically extra light filters that allow you to get more out of the camera. I'm going to go through and flip to this screen right here, just because you can actually do that. But basically, if I go through and take this, so from off to 1 out of 1/4, you'll notice that gets darker. Now if I go through and just flip it up more, you'll see that as I go higher and higher, it gets darker and darker. And there's another sign that you should definitely know about, and that is zebra. Zebra allows you to see on what is overexposed and what is underexposed. That is how I am perfectly exposed in this look right here. In order to see zebra, just hit this zebra button right here. And also that with the image being a lot higher, let's see that there's a bunch of zebra lines on my hand. That is what parts of it are overexposed. If you don't want to have any of these display signs on the screen itself, you can go through and turn them off just by hitting this display button right here and this status button. Oh yeah, and if you want to put an SD card, you just go through, take an SD card, and you throw into either one of these slots. You can have 2 different SD cards in the camera at once, which is pretty nice if you run out of storage. Because if you shoot in 4K like guys sometimes do, you'll definitely run out of storage at some point. Alright, and that's it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And go through and click this video here if you want to go through and see something new that I've released. Or go through and click this video if you want to see past videos inside my capstone.